Everything changed after Iraq was invaded in 2003. With Saddam out of the way and in hiding, Abdulaziz al-Hakim came back from Iran, backed by a militia largely composed of Iraqi exiles called the Badr Brigade. Muqtada Sadr was supported by his own militia, the Mehdi Army. Ayad Alawi, Ahmed Shalabi, and Ibrahim al-Jafari were just a few of the exiles who arrived from the US and the UK to play roles in the new Iraq. After disbanding the Iraqi army and outlawing the Ba'athist Party, the U.S. official who oversaw Iraq from May 2003 through June 2004, Paul Bremer, set in motion a plan for a new democratic government. Bremer worked with the Iraqi Governing Council, which had a new president each month to satisfy all the parties and factions, which was replaced in June 2004 by the Iraqi interim government. Elections were held for the Iraqi National Assembly in January 2005, and that assembly confirmed the Iraqi transitional government, which took power in May 2005. In October of that year, Iraq voted in a referendum to approve a new constitution. Then, in December, elections were held for a permanent government, which took power in May 2006. And if you should find any of that a little confusing, well, think of how we must have felt, especially when there were multitudes of political parties, ethnic groups, and religious leaders vying for control of the territory and its natural resources. Violence between the groups and against the U.S. and other foreign troops was a common occurrence, especially when Al-Qaeda began operating in Iraq and fomenting sectarian violence through suicide bombings against the Shiites. It is for you to imagine, dear listener, what it was like for a person to wake up one morning to find American tanks driving through the streets of their already exhausted city. Without warning, people we had lived among for our whole lives were turned into historical figures, pulled this way and that by the orations of religious men whose photos our neighbors carried and whose names they chanted. That's what happened to me. I found myself a stranger in my own country, as bewildered as if I were suddenly thrust into the set of a movie about the Prophet of Islam in the early years of his ministry. Yes, my country vanished from the map after the invasion, and it was a bitter shock. But the real shock was when the people with whom I had spent my whole life became strangers. That realization is what drove me into the street, laughing with bitter pain. And that was the moment in which these writings of mine were born. Writings that my readers took more seriously than I ever could have imagined. And so I lived those first years under cover, writing under a pseudonym and afraid of the violence at the hands of the same people I had loved since I was born.